Hey guys, Travis Cook here of Learning How to Think, and it's the 3rd of October 2020, and I'd just like to start by saying if you want to support my work, you can do so via Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal. All of the links are in the description below. So today, all of the stuff I'm about to share with you has been brought to my attention through the newly formed Telegram group, which has exploded and is nearly at 700 members. I'm very, very happy with how this group has evolved in such a short amount of time, only being started 4 days ago. So, we can start with so there's a couple of lawsuits happening, and I'll start with the one that was happening in Ireland. So, there's a major Dublin restaurant group threatening the state with legal action over COVID-19 restrictions. And the article goes on to say, one of Dublin's biggest restaurant groups has threatened the government with legal action if it extends coronavirus restrictions on pubs and restaurants in the capital beyond October 10th. Lawyers for Press Up Group, which employs 1,800 people across 5 hotels, 12 bars, 27 restaurants and 2 cinemas, have written to the government saying Minister for Health Stephen Donnelly has published no empirical, objective and verifiable evidence to support the closures. The group has said that if the restrictions are extended, it will be left with no alternative but to issue proceedings in respect of laws bearing on the operation of their premises as a last resort. The predominantly Dublin-based hospitality business, controlled by the businessman Paddy McClellan Jr., has given the government until next Tuesday to give notification if it intends to extend the restrictions, or it will make a legal claim that the restrictions are unconstitutional. Solicitors for the business have sent the warning in a letter to the Ministers for Health, Justice and Finance, the Attorney General and the Chief State Solicitor's Office. The group also claims Mr. Donnelly has unlawfully delegated or otherwise abdicated responsibility to third parties, in particular members of the National Public Health Emergency Team. So essentially what's happening is this businessman, they've sort of realised that they're going to go bust. They're going to there's no other option really but to try and take some legal action. It's fight back or die in this situation. It's what it's coming to for some of these guys, and I can imagine these people that are used to living at quite a high standard of living, having the money rolling in and having a good level of living. They're starting to really get annoyed, as well. We're all getting annoyed, of course, but you can see, if you've built this business up for years and years and you've put your entire life into it and then it's just being destroyed by the ridiculous government policies, you can definitely understand why they're angry. And thankfully they'll have a position of power financially and legally to make a stand against the government. So I'll be very interested to see what happens with that. I'll keep my eye on that. And so now turning again to the UK, here we have... So, Simon Dolan is challenging the government yet again. He has been, it's not the first time he's been taking legal action against the government. I've been following one of his previous lawsuits that he was doing against the government, and he's definitely onto it. So the title of the article is UK lockdown is illegal. Boris Johnson faces legal challenge to latest COVID restrictions. And so the article goes on to say that the legal bid comes after Mr. Johnson urged members of the public to adhere to new rules, including pub and restaurant curfews of 10 p.m, a rule of 6, limit on social gatherings and mandatory face mask wearing. Mr. Johnson set out the need for drastic action to tackle the fast growth of coronavirus, asking people to work from home if possible and to stop non-essential travel. But today, Mr. Dolan and the Cripps Barn Group Limited served legal papers on the government, seeking urgent relief from the court to quash the new restrictions and declare them illegal. In their letter before action, they are also seeking permissions to take the measures to judicial review. So, we'll see what happens there with Simon Dolan and his attempt to take legal action against the government. It's very inspiring to see this because it does show the resistance is growing. The people are starting to have enough, and these are the people fighting back against the government, because as we've seen with the absolute shambles that was the recent House of Commons debates about the renewal of the Coronavirus Act, where hundreds of MPs didn't even do their job and vote at all. They just abstained. and only 24 actually voted against. It just makes it so clear and so obvious that this has to come from the people. And legal action like this is a great step forward. It's a great thing to be happening. So let's just keep our eyes on that, see what happens with that, because it could set the ball rolling. You never know. Of course, the government isn't going to go down fighting and just roll over and accept this. It will be a legal battle, I imagine. But this is how it begins, I guess, in the legal realms. People start to really fight back, and it's great to see. And now, again, this beautiful clip was sent to me. You'd have to excuse the quality of the recording, as I guess maybe somebody's just recorded it on their phone. It's pretty bad, but you can see what you need to see with good old Hancock squirming like the rat that he is. I mean, I don't mean to hate too much on politicians, but I don't have anything good to say about Matt Hancock. I mean, I think Boris is actually not as bad as he seems to be. What he's done for Brexit has been great, and there's a few other things I've really agreed with what he's been doing. And I even hear there was Desmond Swain saying how he's actually keeping at bay some of the health measures that have been into place. And I actually thought a very similar thing when all of this was kicking off. I'm pretty sure Boris had a big part to play in the fact of why the lockdown wasn't as strict as other countries in Europe. I seem to remember him, and it seemed very genuine. Unless he's a very, very good actor on this particular matter, it seemed just like a human saying, because he was involved in this as well. He lives in the flat in Downing Street, but he was like, we can't keep people locked up. We have to at least give them the option to exercise and all this. And it looked pretty fucking genuine for a human fighting for the right to be outside. So maybe there's some element of truth to that. Also, Q has mentioned before how there was a UK Prime Minister installation and has been a big, not a big support, but has mentioned a few times in the drops about celebrating Brexit. So I think Boris is in a very tough position. He's sort of, I don't know if the good guys have blackmail on him as well as the bad guys. It's a very, very tough job. And he's also had a kid. And it's just, I think we can cut this guy a little bit of slack. He's far from perfect, of course. But he's just caught in the middle. And he's got mega forces either side of him pushing their agenda. So let's not be too hard on old Boris. But then Matt Hancock, for me, is a different story. I just don't. This guy to me just seems so slimy, and I just don't have anything good to say about this man. But check out this clip.
But according to a report in this morning's Times, 30% of test results give false positives. So 30% of people could be self-isolating who don't need to.
Well, that's not quite right, because the app will only tell you to self-isolate if you've been in close contact with somebody who's tested positive.
Yeah, but they could be false positives.
Well, you will have had to be in close contact with somebody for it to tell you to self-isolate. So there is the question of how long you've been in that close contact is something where we're constantly improving the accuracy. But if you download the app and it comes up and tells you to self-isolate, that is because you will have been in close contact with somebody.
Yeah, but their test in itself might have been a false positive.
No, only if the tests that we have an incredibly high specificity.
So this article in the Times this morning is wrong?
Well, the question is, how close do you have to be for how long? And the app will not tell you that you have to self-isolate unless you have been in close contact with someone. We have...
Who in turn might have had a false positive. You know, they might have gone to have a test and they're told it's positive and it's not. And so the people around them are being told to isolate for a fortnight and they don't need to.
But the proportion of people for whom the test gives a positive when they haven't had coronavirus is very, very small. That's
so
that's under 1%.
Correct, that story. That 30% story is not correct. Okay.
The challenge is that the false positive rate is very high. So only 7% of tests will be successful in identifying those that actually have the virus. So the truth is you can't just rely on that. And in fairness, I don't think those advocating it think that you can. False positive rate is very high. False positive rate is very high. So only 7% of tests will be successful in identifying those that actually have the virus.
Isn't it beautiful? to see this is on Sky News. I mean, I was quite impressed to see this on Sky News. But you could just see him squirming and just can't even answer the question. And at 30%, I reckon they're more inaccurate than 30%. But this is on Sky News, guys. This is the mainstream media. This will affect the minds of the people not awakened in a very, very powerful way. So could this be the beginning of the end? Who knows? We'll have to see. That's not... After I was saying a very similar thing when I was watching the debates about the Coronavirus Renewal Act, and then that got dashed. So be careful not to get too optimistic when the fight's still maybe a long fight. But the signs are clear. The resistance is building from the people's side for sure. As you can see, with just this Telegram group alone and the legal action happening, and it's all just coming together very nicely. So I, for one, am incredibly optimistic about the future, but we'll see how these legal proceedings go and where this fight takes us. And I'll see you there.